conversation yesterday about, is there time built into that calendar to really think about both of those things, the SEL and their academic needs? And the answer is yes, absolutely, there is. And knowing what you know about the students now, right? And even if they weren't yours from your school, knowing what you know, I want you to be thinking about that as we move into the common writing task. Sorry, I am sharing screen so we can talk about that right now. And I will put it in present mode. So all of that information you got, again, available for your use at any point. I wouldn't be surprised if some of your RTs are utilizing this during pre-service week to, again, push those conversations of meeting our student needs, which takes us to the common writing task where we're going to kind of sit together for the rest of our time. This time I did not build in a break. Please break yourself whenever you need to, no problem. But if you need a break and you need to walk away, go ahead and take care of that. What I wanted to do with you all together before I gave you individual time is I wanted to kind of go through some things with you. There was some clarification that I had to do in regards to how to actually kind of read a common instructional task. And so I'm going to show you pieces of the common writing task to understand that how the common writing task is set up is a lot of how the common instructional task is set up. So I just want to kind of point some things out to you. So you're going to have independent time, and then you're going to have, once again, group time. If you do not want to be a group processor, don't join the breakout rooms when you are prompted to do so. There is two parts or two components that go with this common writing task. We talked yesterday and we reviewed this morning the expectations with the common writing task. You'll implement it as is. You won't make any adjustments in terms of adding more sources, and that we know from our skills framework that for quarter one, students are just writing a paragraph. However, we wrote this, and I had some of your colleagues review this in the March 2020, right before we went into lockdown and we went remote. We had a training session, and your colleagues, there was probably about 20 of them there, were able to review the common writing task as written and give feedback. We made some adjustments to the questions. We made some adjustments to the sources, or I should say I made those adjustments based on the feedback of your colleagues to sources, to the question, and to the process that we used. So this has seen eyes prior to you guys getting this right now. And then it also has a review team in central office that this goes through. So what I want to do first before I give you some independent time is I want to take you into the actual common writing task. And I wanted to show you the folders that sit there to clarify what exists in. Oh, great question, Malwina. Malwina has asked in the chat, are sixth grade teachers expected to enter the data from common writing tasks into performance matters? Okay, so let me address those 2 p.m. questions that are coming up. Amanda asked one as well. So first of all, no, this quarter, historically, the common writing task and the performance matters question of do we enter it or not is an administrative decision. If your RT and your school want you to import that data, then you will import that data into Performance Matters and into the platform. If your school has chosen not to use the Performance Matters platform, that's your business. We strongly encourage you to use it because of the data that it spits back out to you and that you can use to support student instruction and planning as we move forward. However, that is a school decision. For this quarter of the 2021 school year, we, the Social Studies Office, are recommending that you do not use Performance Matters in quarter one. We are not opening up Performance Matters in quarter one for the common writing task. We do not want that to be a stress point for you. We want you to support, help students, allow time for feedback, allow time for processing, allow time for engaging with students in this task, knowing full well you have students that haven't been in the classroom since March of their 4th grade year, so things are going to look a little bit different. When entering data in Performance Matters, you do not include the student writing sample. That is a long conversation that we've had with your RTs. That could change for Q3, but right now we are not asking for student writing samples. We are asking for the rubric scores. And so PM is set up based on the rubric. There's 4 parts to a rubric, so there's 4 scores that you enter into Performance Matters. The thesis, the evidence, the reasoning, and the actual social studies literacy skills that we assess students with, okay? However, you don't need to worry about PM for Q1. You might have a worry for PM in Q3, meaning it might be a new platform you have to use, should your school choose to use the PM platform in Q3, okay? So everybody okay with PM? Okay, Rachel says yes, so that means we're moving forward. All right, when you get into a common instructional task or the common writing task, there are always going to be 2 folders that sit in there for you. One called teacher materials and one called student materials. The teacher materials, I will tell you, is probably the first place you should click on. It's going to give you any answer key that I created, any guide to the documents that I created, any sample responses for students, any model that you can show students of a completed project, whatever the case may be, anything that pertains to you to help prepare in your planning or to help when you're monitoring students, I put in your folder. Additionally are the teacher directions. That's where you always want to start. So after you go to the framework and you find your objective and you click on the resource or the common instructional task, you always want to start with the teacher directions. That will help you to better understand what's actually sitting in the student folder. The student folder is just all the materials that pertain to students. Sometimes if you open that folder, it can seem pretty overwhelming because you don't have the context of what they're supposed to be used for, right? And so each common instructional task and each common writing task is set up the same way. It will tell you the skills and content that are being covered. It will tell you what objective you're in. And then it will provide you an overview of the task that you're doing. Whatever it is that's being asked of you and your students, it provides an overview of the lesson. Then there will always be the materials for you to access. And in a common instructional task or a common writing task, it will be listed out how to actually use and implement the resources. And so when we say these are suggested, if you get to the warm-up and you don't like the warm-up, I'm going to click on the warm-up for you guys. And you get to the warm-up and you're like, yeah, you know what? That's the suggested resource for the common writing task. And I need to tweak this warm-up because my students need X, Y, Z, or I'm not necessarily so on board for the question that Kelly's trying to get out of them. That's okay. You make those adjustments for your students. Again, you have that autonomy as the teacher. And so we start every common instructional task and every common writing task with a warm-up to get the kids oriented with the content and what they're doing. The biggest thing that I can tell you about the common writing task and the common instructional task is that we use this process of we want students to investigate. So don't feel like you should have front-loaded so much content and information for them. It's set up so students are investigating and making conclusions on their own and not for you to make those conclusions for them. So don't feel like you get to Hammurabi's code and you're like, oh, but I didn't explain who Hammurabi was and I didn't explain what that actually means. No, you didn't. You wouldn't have before we got to this. And that's why they're going to go through and actually look at this image of and excuse my pronunciation as a history teacher, I should know this. It's stele, or do we say, is it stele? Yeah. Yes. Stele, guys, are you with me on this? Yeah. Okay.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Vicky. And thanks, Justin. Okay. Dan says yes too. And so does Dee Dee. So we got a consensus. We're going to roll with it. And so students are going to analyze this image as they go through that gives them information. Should you want to add a video clip, if you could find one, anywhere that I could find a video clip, guys, I would. Sometimes I couldn't find video clips. It's harder with ancient history for people to have some cool stuff. But if you find a video clip that you want students to watch on, additional information about Hammurabi's code, great, show it to them. But the warm-up helps to provide that context that you might have panicked and thought to yourself, oh my God, I was supposed to do something. No, you weren't. Let them explore and investigate. It's going to ask them who Hammurabi was. What does it help you learn about the Hammurabi codes? It's going to ask you, could you use this question? Could you use the source to help you answer the question? So you can start that dialogue of like, what resources help actually answer the question and what resources don't. And it gets them to think about, questions, a kind of a larger set of questions of, do you think they're an important part of society to have laws, and how do they help people, and what would they do? And it opens conversations. I show this to you and share this with you again, so you understand how the Common Writing Task was built. It was built to help students investigate and come to a conclusion on their own, and not for you as the teacher to feel like, I gotta tell them who Hammurabi is. They have to know all of this information about Babylonian society, and I got to give them all this stuff. The answer is no, you don't. Let them go through do we still have vocabulary? Alicia, that might be a subscription that your school has. MCPS, I don't believe has a subscription. I could be wrong to vocabulary, but if your school has it, yes, I love vocabulary. Use it and pull their Hammurabi's code to use with students. Oh, sweet. Thanks, Amanda. If you have Nearpod, then you have it. Cool. Then definitely utilize vocabulary wherever you can, as I fumble over that word. Let me go back to, I need to get, oh, stop it. Move. There we go. Let me go back here, guys, for you. Okay. Okay, so then you'll get into the sources. It will tell you like how to process the sources, what kind of process you should use with students to help them have dialogue before they write, to help them understand if they are looking at sources correctly. I think the biggest thing, and if we have 7th and 8th grade teachers on here, the biggest thing that we can tell you about the Common Writing Task is that we want you to provide feedback and opportunities for students to engage with one another throughout the process. This should not be utilized as, okay, Common Writing Task is coming up. I'm going to give you the sources. You are going to source them in isolation, and then you are going to write, and you have 45 minutes to write this response, and then I'm going to grade it. That's not how we envision the Common Writing Task playing out. And that's why there's opportunities that are written in the Common Writing Task for you to engage with students and for students to engage with one another. I can't stress that enough, guys. This is not a got you. You are assessing what they know and what they can do in terms of skills, but you're also trying to find ways to improve those skills, to work with students. And so this is why you're going to have an opportunity to kind of process with thinking about what students need before they get to this task, what student needs during this task, and what students need after this task to support them. In here as well is an opportunity for students to practice using the rubric. They have opportunities in the units throughout to practice using pieces of the rubric, opportunity for students to give feedback to their peers before the final submission, doing a rainbow write. We use rainbow writes a lot in Unit 2 as well. If you don't like rainbow writes, that's fine. Use a different way for students to give feedback to one another. But I think it's a great opportunity and tool for students to recognize, do I have all the components that are necessary? And so again, I'm going to give you an opportunity to review this and ask questions and process this with colleagues. But I want to just show you that folder so you know, and the, and the directions so you can see what they look like. And again, if you haven't looked at a common instructional task, looks very similar. Also in that folder, what exists are the student materials. Now, if you were to go into the student material folder, it's everything that's listed under the teacher materials and then some. And it's access for you if you only want to push out a piece and you're like, God, I don't want to go through the directions again. Just know every clean copy and everything that you need to push out maybe into Classroom or Canvas sits in this student materials folder for you. Okay, so far so good. Okay, I got some thumbs up. Okay, so far so good. The second piece that I want to talk about is the extension material before, again, I turn you loose to have some individual time. The extension material, I think, is an important piece that we added to the discussion and dialogue students are having. So we have Hammurabi's code, and it's students assessing, you know, just or unjust of Hammurabi's code using the sources to make that claim. What I wanted students to have an opportunity to do is looking at the laws of the United States is a huge undertaking, right? We have so many, and you'll have that conversation with students as it's not as simple as we have one set of rules. We have local laws, we have state laws, we have national laws. And so what I decided to do is to concentrate on a law that I think impacts us the most as the United States right now. And it impacts students, and it impacts colleagues, and it impacts the conversation we're having today in the United States about race and equity. And it brings it into the table for students to have as well. If you are not comfortable having conversations about race and equity, I urge you, I have a social studies, a World Studies 6 book table chat for us. Something went wrong. We're going to reload that. Hold on, guys. I encourage you to read Not Light But Fire by Matthew Kay. I encourage you to reach out to your RT. I encourage you to reach out to me. I encourage you to reach out to your staff development teacher. But having the conversations with students about race and equity, about what is going on in the United States today, what's going on in their neighborhoods, what's going on in their school, is of utmost importance, is to bring that into the classroom. And one way to bring it into the classroom, which I know makes us as teachers feel more confident and comfortable, is grounding it in subject matter. So you're going to have an opportunity for students to look at various components of the Civil Rights Act. And in looking at the Civil Rights Act, equity in education, and then equity of, gender equality as well, students are going to be able to process, is that code or is that law just, and is it being upheld by citizens in the United States by looking at specific examples. Once students have the opportunity to do that, they're going to have an opportunity to engage in a circle. If you're looking at restorative justice, you've heard of circles. Restorative justice, a key component of it is having time for students to process in circles and safe spaces. And so they'll be able to take what they learned about the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and apply it today with looking at images from Black Lives Matter's protest, from kneeling, from protests about climate change, for gender equality, Supreme Court cases. And at the end of the day, we're telling students and we're having the conversation that what our colleagues, our classmates, our fellow citizens of color, of different genders, of different cultural backgrounds, of different sexualities are asking for, is they're asking to be seen as whole, as one, as equitable under the law. And are we doing that? And I took questions from Teaching Tolerance, which is not known as Teaching Tolerance anymore, I think it's teaching for change. I can't think of it off the top of my head. And there's questions for you to go through with students about how they as a student can help make changes at school and then statewide and then globally. It makes them think about how they can help make sure laws are being upheld justly for their fellow citizens, for themselves, for their friends. And it's an extension of teaching for justice. Thank you, Gretchen. And it's extension of understanding about laws. And we're making a modern connection for them. And I think it's really important that they have these conversations. And again, if your comfort level about talking about race, about talking about different aspects of equity that exist in education and exist around the country, please reach out to a RT, me, staff development teacher to get that support that you need, because we want students to be able to have access to these conversations. They want it, they're asking for it, they're demanding it in high school, and they're demanding that it's being done in middle school as well. And so we want to make sure that they have that opportunity. When you get to this component, if you want support, if you want me to come in and be a support in the classroom for the circle, ask me, I'll do it. I'll come to your school. But don't skip over this because you think your students don't want it, aren't interested in it, or you're not comfortable with it. So that's my soapbox that I will die on for you, that I just shared with you. And so those are the components. Stop moving over here. Those are the two components that I want you to focus in on when you have time to process, okay? And so we might not even get to that Jamboard. So individually right now, I want you to review that common writing task. I want you to review those extension materials. And as you're doing that, I want to show you some additional resources for you, because I'm not leaving you high and dry. There is a strategy sheet that we put together from social studies about ESOL classroom strategies that are great for all students, but if you do them for ESOL students, that's even better because it's an additional support for them. I want you to link in there and I want you to see those, because as you're reading, you might be thinking to yourself, well, how can I scaffold this document, or how can I better support my students? Please look at those strategies. They're phenomenal, and they're actionable ones that you can do with students to support their attainment of skills and content. Additionally, because we're in this format and we are shorter on time, I put together a Google form for you. Questions you have about the common writing task, about the content, about the process, about the extension materials. Should you have a question and we don't get to it, or while you're looking at it, throw it in that Google form, because then I'm going to respond back to that in a follow-up email for you. If I have to put it in an FAQ document that we create for all World Study 6 teachers, great, but this information will get shared back out with you with a response, unless it's something super specific to you, and then I will reach out to you specifically. But there's a feedback form that you can utilize as you review the material. And then there is the, why can I go backwards? Here we go. Then there's the strategies to help support you as you think about and plan for your common writing tasks. And then lastly, you might be asking yourself, okay, Kelly, I'm going to read through these and I'm going to support this scanning material, and I have these resources from you. Well, what the heck am I actually supposed to be thinking about and focusing on? And this is what I want you to do. If you don't link in here and you don't write it on a sticky note, fine. But what I was wanting you to think about as you go through the materials, what should students need to know and be able to do before they get to that common writing task for content and skill? These are great questions for you and your PLC as you plan. What supports for writing can be provided for students during the writing process, for the content and skill? And then what strategies and opportunities do you provide to students to support their reflection of the common writing task and the process they went through? And then last but not least, how do you think your students will respond to that common writing task extension? Are they going to be excited? Are they going to be nervous? Are you unsure? Are you unsure yourself? However it plays out, again, these are opportunities for us to share ideas with our colleagues So post them in here, post often. I'm going to keep this open for you, but before I say go and have time to process, I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions, anything that I need to answer or process for any components yet.
Kelly, I just had a quick question. Where would I find the ESOL resources? Is it linked in with that same, like for Hammurabi's code? Is it in there?
Give me 1 second. Let me see who's. I just took, give me 1 second. I know you asked a question. Who was it that asked me a question?
Dan, me.
Dan. Okay, Dan, give me 1 second. This is Delia's resource, guys, that she just put in. So I'm going to just leave it as a resource on the sticky note, and then I'm going to share that with you as well. Okay, Dan, to go back to your question about the common writing task, there are the resources specifically set aside for ESOL. I don't have like an ESOL folder. There is in the some of the documents I will tell you are better for ESOL students that you can push out. There's sentence frames, there's images, there's things like that that we know how to do that I've done. The additional support you might need to give your ESOL students, you will have to utilize and put into place. There's not a one size fits all for all ESOL 4s, all ESOL 3s. So some of the bare minimum bones I've written into there. Any additional upgrades that need to come to the common writing task for ESOL students, I'm going to ask that you guys implement because you'll know your students the best. And then when we move into summer 2022, I'll have the ESOL team, the ESOL specialist and their teachers will come together to review the curriculum and put any additional supports they see necessary in place. So Dan, right? Was that you asking that?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any additional questions? I know I see a lot of you helping each other out in the chat already, which is great. Rachel, what is it that you just put in the chat? Because I can copy and paste it as a resource. Is it a resource?
It was just from your slideshow, the ESOL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the ESOL classroom strategies.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel.
Sure.
Sorry, Kelly. Yeah, that's what I was asking for, was just the link to that.
Sorry, Dan.
But I understood everything that you said, so we're on the same page.
You guys, sometimes you just got to cut me off and be like, Kelly, that's not what I asked you, but you know, that's how I roll sometimes. Okay. It's 10:31. I know we end at 11. I will be staying on until 11:30. I'm going to have us come back together at 10:50 because I do want to talk about, you know, your thoughts at this point, and where you're at. And I know you'll have to explore more. So 10:50, if there's anybody that wants to be in a breakout room right now, I can push you into a breakout room. If you want to individually just be where you're at, that's fine too. But I want to make sure that I'm honoring our colleagues who everybody processes differently. Yep. Okay, so David, I will do that right now. So, yep, Alexa and Christina, I just saw that from David, so I'm going to put you guys in there right now. So, David, you were room 10, and Christina, 7, and Emily. Emily, where were you? It's 9. And Alexa, you were, okay, that's fine, Alexa. All right, here we go. Sorry, guys, I process out loud and I talk out loud, so forgive me.
Thanks, Kelly.
No problem. 12.
Hey, Kelly, sorry to bother you. I don't know if
Guys,
someone
don't,
mentioned.
Vicky, give me 1 second. Just
yeah.
ignore the rooms. I opened them all because I'm pushing people out to 12 and you guys know I'm slow. So just ignore, just say no to it if you don't want to go. And then I can move people around. Go ahead, Vicky, do you?
So I don't know if someone mentioned this already, but I don't know if document B for the common writing task in the source list, I don't know if document B is hyperlinked.
Oh, let me look at that right now.
Yeah, like I'm checking all the others and they're all, everything else is hyperlinked and you can clearly see like, you know, the links to the documents, but B, I'm clicking and I don't see it. I just want to let you know.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Judith, I just put you in room 1, and Mike, if you're still in here, I'm going to push you to room 1 too, so you can join. Room 1. Okay. Okay, and then Justin, let me move you into a room 2 with them. And then Vicky, I will respond to that. Oh, I saw you, Justin. Here were you? There you are.
Hey, Kelly, can I join the same room that DeMarco is in?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
All right. Key, let's go look at that. Okay. Susan, the extension circle as a lesson. Okay. Are we doing the extension circle as a lesson in order to do the common writing task? No, the common writing task comes first, the writing, and then the circle is based on those questions about allowing students to process the information that they learned about in the Civil Rights Act, and then bringing it again into a larger picture, or letting them see connections with today, and about laws being upheld justly. And they'll most likely use words like fair, and they get to process what they learned, and they get to process about what's going on in the world in that circle. They'll do that circle together. Okay, so, and there's specific questions if you open up that circle that you'll process the students through with the directions on how to complete a circle as well. So that comes after the common writing task. So they can make assessments and judgments, because that's what we're doing to Hammurabi's code. We're making judgments. So they're going to make judgments about a specific law in the United States. Julie, is this an essay or a paragraph? It is a paragraph, but the paragraph must include claim, evidence, reasoning, and the social studies literacy skills. That's what we consider like a perfect paragraph. And yes, so they're putting evidence into a body paragraph. Yes, they have to incorporate evidence from the text. So if they say Hammurabi's code is just according to document A, which was written by, you know, however it plays out, because they give everybody pizza and everybody loved pizza and it was the most important thing. They have to be able to give evidence, and then they have to rationalize why that evidence matches the claim. That is all part of that paragraph. So writing a claim or the thesis, providing evidence from the text, making a reasoning to connect it, and then using that
like a regular English paragraph.
Yeah, Julie, I know you're coming from English. I figured that's where your brain was going. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
it just said the body evidence in a body paragraph. So I was that
threw you off. Okay.
Paragraph.
I'll reread that language to make sure that that's clear, because I don't want people to misunderstand that. And then, oh, sorry, Julie, did I catch everything you were saying?
You got everything. Thank you.
Okay. Susan, so is it required? There's not much I can require you to do. No, you're right. I can't require that piece of you. I would strongly urge and suggest that, yes, you do give students that opportunity and have that conversation and use that extension material. But no, I can't mandate or require you to do that. No. But I would, like I said, strongly encourage and suggest that you do. And if there's a reason why you don't want to do it because and no judgment, you might be uncomfortable with the content or uncomfortable on how to have the conversation, that's okay. I'm here as a support. I know your RT is a great support. I know that you have admin teams. I know you have a staff development teacher. Hey, go take a shower real quick to get that off. Okay. Whatever the case may be, but utilize those resources so you can give students that opportunity. Natasha, I know you emailed or messaged me. I'll get to that in just a second. I want to check what's happening with source. Vicky, tell me again what source it is.
B, source B. It's one of the primary sources.
Source B, why aren't you there? Damn it. Okay, let's see what's going on with source B. I'm going to stop my screen share real quick, just so it doesn't load for 6 hours. My guess is, Vicky, that I have it sitting in the student materials and I just need to link it in, and that somehow I didn't make it in to the link. But you never know. God only knows. Sometimes I go too fast. Let's close this chain box. Let's go into student materials and see what's going on.
I have a question when you're done with that, Kelly.
Yes. Okay, Vicky, I linked it now. It should be good to go.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for catching that. That's always so helpful. Okay, who is next? Who was
I don't know.
it you, Jason?
Yeah, I had a question. In the teacher directions for the writing,
Yes.
if you go down to step 2, sources, graphic organizer, discourse outline,
Yeah.
go down to the second part there, number 2, it says direct students to part 2 of the student graphic organizer for questions 1 and 2, blah, blah. And it says for question 3 of the check for understanding section of the graphic organizer. I don't see question 3. I just see questions. In the
Let's
organizer.
see. Well, let's take a look.
And I don't even really see any, I see the claim and evidence, it says 1 and 2. I don't see any questions in the check for understanding part.
oh, I should say maybe section 3, because this is where I'm asking them. I just wanted them to have an opportunity. And so that was maybe bad wording on my part, Jason. So that's where they're just like, in the checking for understanding in that section, where I have them do the sticky notes so they can partner up with people who said just and people who said unjust, so they can have, an opportunity to talk about what evidence that they're using and summaries, blah, 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 blah. That's the section where you see this find two classmates who have selected the same claim as you and completed the table below. That's where I'm asking you to use the sticky notes to help, students identify one another. So I need to reword that because it's not technically question 3, is it?
Yeah, I just didn't know. I wasn't sure what you were talking about there.
Yeah. Okay. Totally. So I'm going to make a note for myself. Actually, not on that, but step 2. What are we? We're in step 2, part 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And I need to make it clear, or I need to put a 1, 2, 3 into the thing, but make the directions clear on what I mean. Okay. That's a great catch, Jason. Thank you so much for that.
No problem. And then again, in where directions for number 3, it says explain to students that in order to complete question 3, maybe just section 3 of the organizer or something different, just there.
Like that. I like section 3. That's a better wording on that. And maybe it's something as simple as that up there too. Okay. For section 3. And then I might need to even section them out a little bit better. Okay, let me look at that again, just to make sure that it makes sense, but you're right, that is definitely confusing. Awesome. Any other catches, Jason, that I need to clarify for that?
I think that's it. I'm looking through it now. Everything else looks pretty clear.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's see. I got that. Natasha, let me go up to yours because I saw that you could, okay.
And that doesn't have to be addressed online, but maybe we could chat about it at some point.
Yeah, that's fine, Natasha. I completely agree with you. I think that a swap out, of course, could happen for you guys because we have the global humanities. And at the end of the day, as long as we're still using that rubric, if this is going to be like too easy for your students and we need to, beef up the sources, what I might do is I might put a little notation in there that says, for global humanities students, please add the following source, or please utilize this source instead as an extension of or as a component of the common writing task. How about that as an option?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. Getting my little blue sticky notes, making a note for myself. Okay. And you're suggesting source E to eliminate it for global humanities and just finding an additional source that could be used?
You got it. And I'm happy to look and see if I can find some ideas for you and shoot them your way.
Always, I will always take help, Natasha. I won't say no. So if you do, yes, and I can look too and see what I have. Maybe it's, finding another primary source for the global humanities students to analyze, like another section of the text.
That sounds great.
Okay.
So Kelly, if you're looking for something else for the humanities kids in the DBQ binder, they do have a like what the inscription at the top of the stela says.
Oh,
About how Hammurabi, I think it's his words, and it's like, I get to make the laws because I'm the king. And then there's the image itself of him getting the laws from the god Shamash, and so that's two other things you could throw in there.
okay. I can't, you know what I might have to do for those, Matt, because I can't lift them from the DBQ binder, but I can make a statement to you guys in there to say like, look at or utilize the sources in the DBQ binder. Is it the purple binder or the green one?
Purple one.
Purple.
Yeah, I think it's documents A and B within that. I think I might be a little versed in that.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, Allison, they will. If they're still in the wrong order, then yes, I'm gonna go and look at that folder a little bit better than 9 o'clock at night where I'm just like reading through some things. So I will fix that today, the global humanities folders, and figure out what's going on with those. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to pull out. Sorry, I muted myself when I was saying that. I'm pulling everybody back in so we can talk because we have 9 minutes left together. All right, guys. I know that, again, that feels short and our time is limited together. Let me actually start sharing my screen again so we can talk. Okay. So if you weren't part of the conversation, cancel that. If you weren't part of the conversation because you were in a breakout room, it was suggested by some of your colleagues that in the common writing task, I make a notation that, oh, hold on, guys. Can everybody mute themselves to make sure that I'm not hearing myself? God, nobody wants to hear themselves. Where are you? Is everybody muted? Yeah, okay. All right. So in the common writing task, the Global Humanities has asked that I make a note of possible sources that can be replaced or added. And, I know I talked about like implementing the common writing task as is, and and I thought about the reality of the situation is that we're assessing them on the rubric, which has the 4 categories, which won't go away, which you're still going to end up assessing them on. So if we need to add a different source for some of our global humanities students that are sitting in that, course, then yes, then we're going to add those to it, and I'll make some suggestions and upgrades for you. Some of your colleagues are going to shoot me some ideas as well. And some of them already shared some ideas. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Natasha. I will definitely take a look and put them in the resources for you so you can see that upgrade. Overall, when you have this conversation about the common writing task with your colleagues, I need you not to be in lockstep. I know it's hard, and I know some schools have different expectations. I'm not asking for lockstep. What I'm asking, though, for is common understanding of how you are going to provide opportunities for students to process the information, to share and have dialogue with one another, and then get feedback from one another before they turn in their final component. That is going to be such a crucial piece for your students as you first introduce them to a larger writing assessment. I know it's only a paragraph, but for some students, that's going to be a feat in itself. And so we need to make sure that we provide those opportunities in our PLC. When you score students, should you choose to, again, it's Q1, so this is why I'm using the language of should you choose to be using that rubric, I ask that you take the time to range find together, take a sample of student papers and utilize that rubric together as a PLC and see if you're all scoring those common writing tasks the same way. Are you all seeing an A as an A? Are you all seeing a B as a B? Are you seeing things the same way? So when you walk away to go score your students, you are walking away with all the understanding of, this is what my PLC sees as an A, this is what my PLC sees as a B, utilizing that rubric. That's going to be an important component. Yes, did somebody have a question? In regards to the extension material, again, the question came up about should or is it a requirement to do the extension material? Listen, as I said before, there's not much that I can require you to do except implement those objectives that are tied to MSDE standards. Should you choose to different resource, should you choose something beyond the suggestions that we've created, that's up to you. But I will tell you that providing students the opportunity and space to talk about current issues that impact their life and impact their families' lives, and not give them that space would be a mistake. And so any support that I can provide, I absolutely will. And I absolutely know that you have supportive RTs and staff development teachers that can be an additional support for you as well. And I know that sometimes is a heavy lift when you're not understanding what is maybe what your comfort level is. So between now and I don't know, October, when this plays out for the common writing test, and you get to know your students and you get to know the things that they need, I would suggest that you reach out to me or other PLCs in the county. Utilize the sharing space on our website. Make sure you have really thought about this process before you get to it. And in doing any of those resources and doing any of those lessons, students will have had continuous practice to get them to this point. So it's not just they're thrown into the situation, which is great, which is what we want for students. Additionally, that was not what I was supposed to click on. Let me go back here. We got those strategies for you to utilize. Okay, we're running low on time, but I have resources that I saw in the chat that I've been saving, and I know that you've been sharing resources in the chat with each other or points that you want to make, which is Julie Sanders was making a point that you got to teach the kids how to peer edit before they even get to that phase. Absolutely. You're going to have to practice things with students before we get them to that final phase. And using that rubric, they have opportunities to use components of that rubric prior to the common writing task in other common instructional tasks that have been written in Q1. Let's see. Okay, yes. And then any other kind of most valuable point or an idea that you want to share, you can link it into the Jamboard, but you can unmute yourself right now and share with the group for people to hear about the common writing task or the extension materials. Okay. Oh, yep. Who is it? Matt. Yes.
Sorry. Take time to come up with a class definition of what just actually is. And you might want to have a different definition for each class as to what just is, because without that grounded piece, every kid is writing their own thing, and it gives everyone common ground to stand on. And the more comfortable they are with that word just, the easier this writing task will be.
Matt, fantastic point, really fantastic point of grounding them in the same common language of what that term just means. So, you know, maybe even before you get to that warm up, you talk about what is just and what does that look like and how do they, you know, assess a situation as just or not just. So fantastic point. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, to add on to what Matt said, we've done that as a warm up. And then after we've discussed as a class, we have like a checklist. And then each time we go to the sources and we analyze, we go back to the just checklist and we say, does this evidence, you know, does it match up to the definitions of just or not? And some of them, some aspects are just and other aspects aren't, depends on the interpretation of the student. But yeah, so yeah, exactly what Matt said.
Awesome, Alexa. That's a great idea too, to have kind of like a checklist ready for them to kind of go through and make, you know, determinations just, not just, as they go through the sources and be thinking about, you know, how they are going to then provide evidence for that categorization. Fantastic. A really, really good points from Matt and Alexa for us to be thinking about as we implement that common writing task. One of the things that I wanted to make sure, and I know we're over time, so if you have to leave, feel free to drop from the call, but this is for you guys. There's 2 textbooks on here that I'm trying to get for you. It's not like a novel like Global Humanities, but it is an additional component that you can utilize with students in your classroom, the Accidental Archaeologist, and then the Global Citizenship. Once I get a new supervisor, I'm hoping we have enough funds that I can at least set, at minimum, get teachers a copy of it, but then also get at least one class set as well. But they have, I thought, you know, if you're trying to find different ways to explore content or even practice skills with students as homework, these Accidental Archaeologist stories are about persons of color, about women, and about children, and about the role that they've played in these massive developments related to ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, and other areas. So I think it's a great text that you could utilize. Go ahead and Amazon it if you want your own copy. And, you know, I'm not sending any out. The Global Citizenship will support our global humanities teachers and our non-global humanities teachers. I put Model UN or components of UN in lessons in Unit 2, and they'll show up again in Unit 3. And so this Global Citizenship book should help with that, or just give you more context for students. If you want your own personal reading about preparing your mindset for the school year, The Atlantic does amazing articles, and there's an article about Our Kids Are Not Broken. I can't stress to you enough to read that article. It's phenomenal, and it gives you good context of what our students are bringing to the table. It's not just, you know, they're not broken. They have skills that they've learned in this pandemic, so think about that. Last but not least, Not Light But Fire. Meaningful conversations about race in the classroom. And I think that right now I'm currently reading it, and it's probably one of the best books I've ever read in terms of how to have conversations about race, especially for me being a white woman with colleagues and students. And I was recommended this a year ago, and I finally started reading it, and I wish I read it sooner. So I urge you to get that book. It's really phenomenal. So this is what's on our bookshelf right now. If you wanted to know what MSDE book I was reading to inform Unit 4 and you want it for yourself, it's linked on there as well. And the next slide, you guys are amazing that you stayed on, is just, again, additional resources for you to have that planning calendar, the framework, and don't forget about slide 18 from day 1 that shows you the SHAG, the OER, all those resources that exist. I'm sorry, that feels fast. That went fast. That was a massively fast 2 hours. You guys are amazing. I am here always for help. Email me. I can always hop on a Zoom now that we all know how to use Zooms. We can hop on one. even if it's, so you don't have to travel to go see me, or I don't have to travel to see you. But I'm here and I'm an email away. So please ask an email for any support you need, and have a fantastic day, but I'm staying on. Let's see.
Kelly, I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dee Dee.
As I was kind of reading through the entire unit 1, I noticed that the warm-ups they're kind of long. So,
Oh, okay. Well, Dee Dee, you might have to do some edits. Have you met me? I'm long-winded, for God's sakes.
well, not just long, but just more like a mini lesson. So it kind of
Could be. So you're saying they're meaty. There's a lot to them, right?
right.
Yeah.
Not
And
just something that you can copy and put on the table and, hey, pick this up on your way in. They'll pick it up, but
yeah, they'll pick it up, and it might be some, so, Dee Dee, you might take a component of that and make it a piece, or maybe, Dee Dee, like, your warm-ups are always going to be like skill-based, and like, you're going to have them start off with like, maybe it's a paragraph and that you've written or lifted from an article, and you have them underline evidence in it. And like, that's your quick warm-up. And then you utilize the warm-up as the intro into the lesson and kind of sequence from there. Do you know what I'm saying?
right.
So you can play around with it, but yeah, some of those warm-ups are pretty meaty. Wait until you get to unit 2. And I give you some love even more in unit 2. Yeah, they're pretty.
I mean, I love them. They're great, but I was like, wow, that's a
You're like, that's gonna take a minute, Kelly. That ain't a warm-up.
That's not gonna take 4 minutes.
Okay, so maybe Dee Dee, you do some creative stuff.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Dee Dee. It's great seeing you.
Yeah.
Other questions, guys, or comments? I'm here. You ask away.
I just found it. If you wanted to see I'm just gonna put it in the chat. If you wanted to see the not just thing, or I don't remember if there's somewhere to put it. But
yeah, you know what? I'm gonna send out, Alexa. I'm gonna send out resources that came in, and actually, I'm gonna put it in. Keep talking.
So this is like from 3 years ago. So it doesn't even look like this anymore, but this had the best. Had everything that we used, but it showed our warm up. Like, what does it mean to be just? And then think of a rule you've broken and a consequence you've received as a punishment. Like, do you think that consequence was just or not? And then why? And a lot of the reasons as to like what kids said was what the checklist ended up being. Like, the kids would talk about like, well, like, did I know the rule beforehand before I broke it? Or like, was the consequence like too hard, or like, was it related to the rule at all? And then we brainstormed this list. So anyways, I shared it with you guys.
Awesome. I put it, there's some resources that I've been putting on, like sticky notes in the, here, this is another one I needed to grab, in that Jamboard. So I'm going to compile them in an email back out to you guys with just any updates and, whatever else that I need to share, but I'm going to share these resources out to everybody too. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Just wanted to show you that. Okay. All right,
Awesome.
Kelly, thanks for everything. Looking forward to all the changes.
Sweet. Thank you. And we'll see you. Well, my daughter will see you on the 19th, but I'll be drop off. So I'll see you maybe.
Yes. I'll see you then.
Okay. Cool. Bye. Thanks, Alexa.
To show Molly around. Bye.
Yay. Thanks.
Kelly?
Yes.
I just had a quick question about global humanities. Will there be like an updated calendar of lessons to follow like there is for units for the regular 6th grade?
So that's really going to be dependent upon my new supervisor and what their thoughts are. Under Maria said no, and we don't do that. We didn't do it in 7th and we didn't do it in 8th. I don't anticipate that we will. Bye, Julie. I don't anticipate that I'm going to do it for 6th grade. But my new supervisor could have other thoughts. So that's a wait and see. I am going to fix those folders, and I am going to make some adjustments and some comments so you can see a 1-to-1 correlation, but I'm not really sure what a global humanities calendar would look like because they're suggested resources and not everybody follows the same pacing of global humanities. So that's
Okay.
where we find it so hard to kind of sync people in. So sorry, that wasn't a more
Lessons
direct
that
answer.
are, I've never taught global humanities before, so the lessons that are in there were more, it's more supposed to be like fit them in as we can with
No,
the
they're
regular
not.
curriculum?
Yes and no. So like the novel is a fit in, you're going to have to put that in in conjunction with the curriculum, but some of those lessons that sit in global humanities are going to replace lessons that exist in world studies. So like if I wrote a lesson in for 6.1.1.1 and you're like, oh, but we have a lesson in the global humanities folder that covers the same objective. This one is what my global humanities needs. You're not going to do the one that I have written. You're going to do the other one instead. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
So what Dan and David were asking for, and so what I think I'm going to try to figure out and do is make a suggested, like, not sequence, but a suggested almost like, you know, if you're in unit sequence 1, here are the lessons that you would replace.
Kind of like a T-chart kind of thing, like do this, and that would be awesome. Yeah,
so
okay.
that's what I'm going to work on this week, because I'm sure that the teachers that come into the training next week are going to want the same thing. So if I can have some of this front loaded already, that would be great. And then of course you guys can have it before the end of July. That would be super helpful too.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. Hi, David. I know Patty's teaching a class right now, so she's just listening. Joseph or David, is there anything you have, or you're just sitting on to hear what people are asking? Yeah, I do the same
Never
thing.
know what you don't know until someone else asks it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That actually, I'm an archaeologist, so the plan is kind of